the disaster that started it all. The universe had long feared humanity's recklessness. Not their warships. Not their weapons. Not even their terrifying endurance. No, what made humans dangerous was their complete lack of self-preservation. Every species had limits. Humans didn't. And nothing proved that better than the disaster on Varkis 4. The Zarkilian mining outpost was failing. A rare gravitic collapse was forming under its surface, a phenomenon that would swallow the entire planet into a singularity. The colony had hours to evacuate, but the Zarkilians were notoriously slow thinkers. By the time they had finished debating emergency protocols, they only had 12 minutes left, which meant they were dead. Until a single human pilot made an absurd suggestion. "Hold my drink," Captain Rick Calloway said, tossing a half-empty bottle of Terran whiskey into the cockpit of his ship. His alien co-pilot, a horrified Fenari navigator, barely had time to shriek, "What are you doing?" before Calloway punched the throttle, and flew directly into the collapsing singularity. Madness in motion. Every species in the Galactic Compact had studied black holes. They all understood the mathematics of annihilation. The laws of physics were absolute, which is why no sane being would ever attempt to pilot a ship into one. But humans never asked if something was possible. They just tried it and dealt with the consequences later. And that was exactly what Calloway did. With the Zarkilian colony still grounded, he needed time. So, like a complete lunatic, he accelerated into the gravitational well, riding the slingshot effect at impossible speeds, his ship screaming as it fought against physics itself. The plan? Jump to FTL at the precise moment of maximum pull, using the singularity's distortion to spit him back out into normal space. But on the other side of the event horizon, a place no ship had ever returned from. The insanity pays off. The Galactic Council watched in stunned silence as Calloway's ship vanished. The singularity pulsed, collapsing into itself, and the Zarkilian colony was seconds from destruction. Then, against all known science, Rick Calloway's ship re-emerged. From inside the singularity, every scientist in the council had heart attacks simultaneously, because that should not have been possible. And yet, there he was screaming over comms. "Told you it would work. Get the hell on the ships." Then he reversed the polarity on his jump drive, which was an act so stupidly dangerous that engineers later called it the Calloway suicide maneuver, and used the shockwave to blast the colony out of orbit, just before the planet collapsed into nothingness. The entire mining colony survived. Calloway's ship was smoking, half-melted, and missing 3 engines. But his first words after crash landing? "I need another drink." Why the universe finally understood fear. The galaxy had always thought humans were tough. Now they realized humans were insane. It wasn't just their ability to endure pain. It wasn't just their ability to adapt. It was their absolute, mind-melting refusal to accept reality as a limitation. A normal pilot would have calculated safety limits. A human pilot just jumped in and figured it out on the way down. And succeeded. And that, more than anything, was why every alien species feared the phrase, "Hold my drink." Because the moment a human said those words, something absolutely catastrophic was about to happen. And somehow it was going to work. The bet that doomed a planet. Rick Calloway's gravitic suicide stunt became legend. Every race in the Galactic Compact now knew humans were insane. But it wasn't until the Gorgoth Prime incident that they truly understood what that insanity meant. And why they should never, under any circumstances, let a human make a bet. The Gorgoth Conundrum. Gorgoth Prime was a death world. Not just any death world, a Class X uninhabitable nightmare. Its atmosphere was corrosive. Its gravity was crushing. Its oceans were acidic, and its land masses were constantly being bombarded by hypercane storms that could level entire cities in minutes. And worst of all, something lived there. The Gorgoth apex predators, 20-meter-long chitin-armored horrors, were the reason no one had successfully set foot on the planet and lived. The best scientists in the universe had tried for centuries to extract samples, scan the surface, or even land drones. All failed. Which is why, when a Draknari scientist drunkenly slurred, "I bet no species could survive 1 hour down there," during an interspecies bar night, Rick Calloway, still nursing a hangover from his black hole stunt, grinned and said, "Hold my drink." A one-man war on a death world. The entire bar erupted in protests. "You can't be serious. You'll die before you hit the ground. Your species may be reckless, but this is suicide." Rick waved them off, already strapping on his custom EVA suit, a reinforced armor rig he called the Booze Cruise Mk2. He wasn't joking. 5 hours later, every major species in the galactic compact was gathered in orbit over Gorgith Prime, watching in horrified fascination as one single human drop pod screamed toward the surface, with Rick Calloway inside it. The descent into hell. The drop pod hit atmosphere like a meteor. Temperatures soared to 2,000 degrees. Acidic rain hissed against the reinforced hull. The moment the pod breached cloud cover, it was struck by a 600 km/h hypercane windstorm, ripping away stabilizers and spinning it into an uncontrolled nosedive. Any sane pilot would have ejected. Rick turned on the external cameras, took a sip from his hip flask and said, "Shit's a bit windy, huh?" Then he overrode the emergency eject, manually fired the stabilizers in reverse, and aimed the drop pod straight at the biggest, ugliest predator on the planet. The moment the universe went silent, Rick Calloway's pod landed fist-first into a 40-ton nightmare beast. The impact alone should have killed him. It didn't. The Gorgith predator roared, throwing the crushed remains of the pod aside, only for Rick to step out, coughing, covered in smoke and holding a half-empty bottle of whiskey. He took a swig, wiped his mouth and muttered, "All right, let's dance." Every alien watching from orbit lost their goddamn minds. This wasn't survival. This was warfare. And somehow, the human was winning. 1 hour in hell. For the next 60 minutes, the galaxy watched in absolute terror as Rick Calloway fought Gorgith Prime's apex lifeforms barehanded. He used a dead predator's spine as a makeshift weapon. He surfed a mudslide down a collapsing canyon, drinking mid-slide. He punched a smaller creature so hard that even orbiting scientists heard the crack through audio feeds. At one point he rodeo-rided a 6-legged horror straight into an acid river, jumping off at the last second while laughing. By the 59th minute he was shirtless, missing his left gauntlet, had 3 broken ribs and was bleeding from multiple wounds, but still grinning. At minute 61 the extraction beacon activated. A shuttle rushed down to retrieve him, just as a pack of 20 Gorgith apex predators closed in. Rick, drenched in blood and sweat, flipped them all off before jet boosting into the sky, whiskey bottle still in hand. The entire universe watched in stunned silence. He had done it. Rick Calloway had conquered Gorgith Prime, while drunk. The consequences of stupidity. Rick was rushed into medical care. The Galactic Compact was in uproar. The Draknari scientist, who had made the original bet, fainted on live broadcast. The Gorgith Expedition Committee had spent centuries trying to study the planet, only for one insane human to march in half-drunk and win. And that's when the universe finally realized. Humans didn't care about limits. They didn't care about impossibilities. They only needed one thing. A dumb challenge. And the moment you gave them one, they would throw themselves at it with absolute madness. And succeed. The warning to the galaxy. After the Gorgith incident, new laws were drafted across the universe. Betting with humans was banned. Accepting a human's hold my drink challenge was classified as a potential war crime. And yet, everyone knew it was only a matter of time before another human ignored the warnings and did something even more insane. The unthinkable proposition. Rick Calloway's 1-hour survival stunt on Gorgith Prime shattered the galactic record for reckless feats of stupidity. But did humanity learn its lesson? Of course not. Instead, just 4 weeks later, another human doubled down on the madness and nearly got an entire star system destroyed in the process. A challenge on the Galactic Senate floor. The Galactic Compact had just passed new laws banning any wagers with humans after the Gorgith incident. But as the Compact celebrated its newfound sense of rational decision-making, humanity was already planning its next move. And it all started when one particular senator, a Zilthari named Zyrek, mocked human ingenuity in a public forum. "They are reckless children," Zyrek declared, smirking. "A race that stumbles from one act of idiocy to another. They lack the foresight or discipline to ever accomplish something truly remarkable. That should have been the end of it." But then Marcus Briggs, Earth's representative, leaned forward and said 6 words that sent chills through every alien present. "Won a bet." The impossible heist. Zyrek laughed in his face. "A bet? And what, pray tell, would the stakes be?" Briggs didn't blink. He gestured toward the Ragnarok Vault, a fortress moon in orbit around the Jordan system, the single most secure installation in the galaxy. Built to house weapons so dangerous that even the most warlike empires feared them. Not a single entity, not even the elite Nyx Shadow Syndicate, had ever broken into the Ragnarok Vault. "Briggs?" Briggs grinned and said, "Give us 1 week. If we break into that vault, humanity wins." Silence. Then uproar. the Galactic Compact erupted in horror. The Jorthan High Council demanded Earth's immediate expulsion. The Compact's military leaders warned that even attempting this would trigger war. Zyrek, however, leaned back in amusement and chuckled. "Fine. You have 1 week," he said mockingly. "And if you fail, the entire galaxy will finally see humanity for what it is, a race of arrogant fools." Briggs smiled. "Oh, don't worry. We won't fail." How do you break into the unbreakable? The Ragnarok Vault was protected by a planetary-grade energy shield, a fleet of 50 Jorthan warships, automated defense drones with AI-controlled response algorithms, gravity distortions that made warp jumping inside impossible, a security system designed by 7 of the galaxy's most advanced species. In other words, it was impenetrable. No military strategist, no hacker, no infiltration specialist in the known universe had ever cracked its defenses. So how did humanity respond? By getting absolutely shit-faced at a space bar and coming up with the dumbest idea in history. Operation Hold My Drink. 1 week later, the entire Galactic Compact was watching. The Jorthan fleet was on high alert. Their sensors swept the system, scanning for stealth craft, cloaked infiltration teams, anything. What they got instead? A single, unarmed Terran cargo ship limping toward the vault, broadcasting a distress signal. "Mayday. Mayday. Our reactor's failing." The human pilot, drunkenly, slurred over comms. We need assistance before we, okay." The transmission cut off as the cargo ship lurched, sending it straight toward the vault's outer perimeter. Jorthan officials scrambled to respond. The ship was clearly not a military vessel. Its heat signature showed a catastrophic engine failure. Standard protocol dictated that they tow it away before it collided with the defense grid. So they did. And in that exact moment, the heist began. How to steal from the galaxy's strongest fortress. While the Jorthan fleet focused on the distressed ship, they didn't notice the 20 microscopic drones that had been launched along with its debris. Drones small enough to pass through particle shielding unnoticed. Drones carrying a very specific cargo. A team of drunk, laughing, highly trained Terran operatives. They slipped inside the facility unnoticed, deactivated the internal security systems, overrode the main vault door. And then, because humans can't just stop at winning, they did something that would haunt the Jorthans forever. They replaced the galaxy's deadliest superweapon with a note. The moment the galaxy realized it lost. When the Jorthans finally realized what had happened, it was too late. Every alarm blared. Emergency forces rushed to the vault's central chamber. And instead of the planet-killer warhead that had been secured there for centuries, they found a folded piece of paper taped to the vault wall. In handwritten human script, it read, "We were here. You suck at security. Also, your ships smell funny. Humanity." A single data log was attached. A full video feed of the entire heist, including the moment the human team stole the weapon, toasted with beer, and mooned the security cameras on the way out. The aftermath, a lesson in terror. The Jorthans went berserk. They demanded war. They wanted blood. But how do you declare war on a species that just stole your deadliest weapon, for fun? Zyrek, the Zilthari senator who had mocked humanity, had to be hospitalized due to stress. The entire compact sat in stunned silence as humanity's representative, Marcus Briggs, sat back in his chair, took a sip of coffee and casually said, "So, what did we learn today?" The new galactic rule. After the Ragnarok Vault heist, a new compact law was passed. Never bet against human. And if a human ever says, "Hold my drink," run. Because whatever happens next will change history. The galaxy reacts. The Ragnarok Vault heist shattered the galactic order. The Jorthans were livid. The compact was horrified. Every major species realized that humans had pulled off the impossible, and did it just to prove a point. But there was a far bigger problem than just wounded alien pride. Because somewhere out there, the stolen superweapon was still missing. And the entire galaxy knew one terrifying truth. Humans weren't stupid enough to keep it. Which meant, they had already sold it. Hunting the most dangerous sale in history. The compact immediately mobilized fleets across known space, searching for any trace of the missing warhead. They assumed humans had done the obvious thing, sold it to the highest bidder. The question was, who had it now? Rumors spread like wildfire. Some claimed the Nyx Shadow Syndicate had it. Others whispered that a doomsday cult on Zereth 9 paid billions for it. Some even feared humans had hidden it on Earth itself, turning their homeworld into an untouchable fortress. None of those theories were right. The truth was far worse. Because the humans hadn't sold it to anyone, they had given it away. To a species the galaxy had spent centuries ignoring. A species the compact had brutally oppressed for generations. And now, for the first time in history, that species had the power to burn their oppressors to the ground. The revenge of the Athari. The Athari were a small, fragile, rodent-like species from the planet Vorik II. They had spent centuries under compact rule, used as a slave workforce for planetary mining. They had no military, no fleet, no weapons. They were helpless. Until humans handed them the most devastating superweapon in galactic history. And told them one thing: use it wisely. The Compact's greatest mistake. The Compact laughed at first. They thought the Athari would never dare use such a weapon. That these meek little creatures wouldn't even know how. That humanity had just thrown away its bargaining chip. Then came the broadcast. Every screen, every comlink, every single channel in the galaxy flickered on, revealing the Athari high speaker Twix. The once fearful, trembling species now stood with fire in their eyes, and a human fleet standing behind them. For centuries, Twix declared, you have crushed our people beneath your boots, stolen our worlds, enslaved our children. He held up a small metal detonator. The entire galaxy froze, because they recognized it. The activation key to the Ragnarok warhead. We are Athari, Twix said, his voice steady, and we are no longer afraid. The standoff that changed the galaxy. Panic erupted across the Compact. Leaders pleaded for diplomacy. Armadas raced toward Vorik II to contain the crisis. Every species prepared for the worst-case scenario, that the Athari would unleash the warhead, obliterating an entire Compact world. But Twix didn't fire it. Instead, he issued a single demand. Our people will be free. And then, just to prove they weren't bluffing, they tested the warhead on an uninhabited moon. The resulting explosion was visible from 5 star systems away. The Compact surrenders. With no options left, the Compact capitulated. They signed the Athari Liberation Treaty, officially freeing Vorik II and recognizing the Athari as an independent power. The Compact's leaders begrudgingly admitted defeat. And humanity? Humanity just sat back, drank their beers and watched the chaos unfold. Because in the end, they didn't just steal a superweapon. They changed the balance of power forever. The new galactic rule, again. The Compact now had 2 new laws burned into history. 1. Never bet against a human. 2. If a human says, hold my drink, evacuate the sector immediately. Because whatever happens next, the galaxy isn't ready for it. Fire, and that, my friends, is why the universe will never underestimate humans again. If you love this story, smash that subscribe button and stay tuned for more insane tales from the stars.